This is Wildcat Country.
Larson tipped it. Love has it. Lewis slams it, and Arizona wins it.
The inside scoop on the Arizona Wildcats.
It's Gunnar Maldonado. He's got blockers. Touchdown, Arizona.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to bear down.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country presented by Harrah's Auction Casino. Eric Cohen, Shane Dale, and special guest Blair Willis joining us for the entire show tonight. A lot of things to break down from football to the basketball schedule. We will have it here for you on Wildcat Country. Gentlemen, welcome. Shane, I'll start with you. We had a bye week last week. We're calm. We're relaxed. Arizona's 3-0. How you feeling?
Hey, back-to-back Saturdays that we haven't had to sweat Arizona football, but it's coming back this Saturday. No, feel good about it. I mean, it was kind of nice just to, regardless of what happens the rest of the season, just bask in the glow of 3-0. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years. I'm sure Blair knew that better than we did. That
100%.
That it had been that long. But we'll see. I mean, I know we said going to the K-State game, we'll find out what this team's really made of. Well, now we'll really, really find out what this team's made of when they go face a ranked team and play their first road game.
All right, Blair, we haven't had you on in a long time. We're glad to have you back, as always. I want you to be honest with me. What was your Arizona record prediction heading into the season?
Yeah, well, first off, good to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me back, and it's been an exciting start to the year. I don't know if I had a formal prediction. I did have a good buddy asked me, I don't see him very often. He doesn't live in Tucson anymore, but he reached out to me. I don't know if it was a week before the game or a few days before the game. He said, what do you really think? Like how, what can this team do this season? I said, hey, if the pieces come together, if they stay healthy, I think they can win 7 or 8 games. Again, I don't know if I was going to go on the record with a prediction and say 8-4 or 7-5 or what have you, but kind of the way the first 3 games have shaken out has been, in a lot of ways, the best case scenario for the Wildcats, and kind of puts us right on track for that. Hey, they could win 7 or 8 games if things go right, and who knows, maybe they surprise us, even more this week, and this thing is way ahead of schedule, and maybe they go beyond 7 or 8 wins. But take this thing one game at a time. Really enjoy the progress we're making right now, and we'll see where it goes.
Shane, our old buddy Pete Futak, who we had on the show years ago from collegefootballnews.com, he likes to give rest of season predictions for every game in college football, and he has Arizona finishing 8-4. What is Shane Dale's reaction to that?
I'd say it's not out of the realm of possibility. Here's the thing. Here's the repeating cycle is that how cynical and pessimistic I am. When I open the door and say maybe they're pretty good, and I'm as optimistic, if not more so than most people, that's when things start going wrong.
Right.
So, and I'm sure it's all my fault. No, but I think 5-4 in the Big 12, is that realistic? Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what it would take at this point. I don't know if I'm there yet. I mean, like Blair said, the old coach speak, take it one game at a time. So that's kind of a way to weasel my way out of it. But you look at their schedule. I mean, their 2 toughest opponents that I would say as of now are their first and final game of the Big 12 schedule, and then 7 in between. If they lose both of those, they'd have to go 5-2 in those games. So that may be pushed it a little bit. But we'll get to the Iowa State game here in a little and very shortly. But no, 8 wins definitely looks more realistic now than it did a few weeks ago, though I think that still might be pushing it a little bit.
On this show, we're going to have a 2-segment show. We have a lot of things to go over in segment 1. And then listen, it's one of the greatest weeks of the season in terms of games. The slate for college football, we're going to pick every Big 12 versus Big 12 game.
I think you have us picking
season.
Every single game on the schedule this week.
Not quite, but there's more than most weeks. So that segment's going to be longer for those of you who like picks. If not, make sure to fast forward.
Listen
to the
end. No. Listen anyway.
We want you to. No, listen to this first segment.
Yes.
But if you don't like the picks in the last, then you can fast forward to where we picked U of A.
Listen,
That's what you could do. So you can do on a podcast. All right, Shane. This is Buy or Sell, which is brought to you by our friends at Ice Shaker, and you have something pretty cool to show us on your end. Yeah.
From our friend Chris Gronkowski. I'll pull it back a little bit. This is their Legacy Series 40-ounce tumbler here. So you got Wildcat Red and Wildcat Blue. Now, I will mention, and thanks to Chris for sending us these, They're working on getting the licensing so they can actually put the U of A logo on these. This was kind of a special order thing. They've gotten the licensing on previous ones. They just don't have it on this yet. It's a whole process. So they're not the ones with the logos are not available yet, but the Legacy series themselves are available on iceshaker.com. Check them out. I got water in this one and something else in the other one. But I'll go back and forth. But no, they're excellent. They're really high quality, and check them out on iceshaker.com for sure.
All right, buy or sell, Blair. I'm going to start with you. Number one, for once, Arizona's offense is the key to Saturday night's game in Ames. It's kind of time to trust the defense. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'll buy that. The defense has been really, really impressive. And I kind of laugh, Eric, your question you asked me a few minutes ago, what was my preseason expectation for the season? And I was probably a little bit more upbeat about the defense coming off last season than some people were, just because I think, last year our defense actually gave some pretty good effort in the first half of the season, those first 5-6 games before the injuries just decimated that group. And we had some of those key players returning, obviously the secondary, those guys that we know. And I thought they did a nice job in the portal. It seemed like a group that was going to be a little bit deeper. We didn't necessarily know coming into this season what the defensive line was going to look like, but just across the board, I thought they retooled. And if Coach Gonzalez could just get those guys playing hard as they have, I thought the defense could give us a chance to win some games. And if they would stay healthy, be a fairly formidable unit going forward through the season. So I say all that thinking, I thought we could be an average defense. I would say these first 3 games, they've been playing above average, and they give us a lot of hope to really be a good defensive unit that can shut teams down, stopping the run, pressuring quarterbacks, getting turnovers. So now the onus kind of falls on the offense when you go into a tough environment like Ames, Iowa, and we're going to need to score some points. But this is a place, and I've got some interesting numbers too on Iowa State and their defense at home. This is a tough place to score points. And I think if Arizona's going to walk out of Ames with a victory this week, it's going to have to find a way, to get to 3 touchdowns or more, which is not easy to do at that place. So I can go down through some of those numbers that were kind of eye-popping.
What do you got? Go for it. Yeah.
Well, let's go back the last 5 years. So since the start of 2021, Iowa State is 19-9 at home, giving up an average of 16.9 points per game. They've got about a plus 13 scoring average at home, 29.2 to 16.9. But here's the thing, only 16 of the last 28 teams to go to Ames have been held to 17 points or fewer. Only one team has gotten to 30. That was Baylor in 2022. However, in their 9 losses at home over these 5 years, opponents averaged 22.9, so right about 23 points per game. And Iowa State is just 5-7 in those games when an opponent gets to 20 points. So Arizona's got to find a way to get into the end zone, 3 times to have a chance. Didn't do it against K-State. Let's think about the home game we just had a couple weeks ago. That was a great win. Offense got over 400 yards. Didn't get, offensively to that 3 touchdown mark. So I say all those numbers, put one more thing in context. Iowa State away from home, 14-14 in the last 5 years. But their defense gives up 25 points a game. And actually 10 of the 28 teams have scored over 30 points. A lot of numbers, a lot of whatever. The point being, this is a very sound defense Iowa State has, a 3-3 stack defense. It's going to pose some challenges to Arizona's offense. So if we're going to walk out of there a win, that goes back to your question, Eric. The offense is going to have to find a way to move the football, capitalize on red zone drives, and put up some points.
We'll see. That's great. Those are great stats, Blair. And we'll see Iowa State in Tucson next year. But for now, Shane, do you agree with Blair that it's all about the offense, not the defense? It's about the offense in Ames on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I trust this defense as much as I reasonably could after what we've seen so far, and you consider the level of competition. I think the tackling across the board has been so much better than last year. I'm so impressed. Arizona's one of the better teams in the country in terms of yards allowed after contact. And just some of the open field tackles they made against Kansas State were really impressive, especially with the secondary. It's a very well coached group. The secondary was outstanding in the Kansas State game in particular. Iowa State's the best team that unit will have faced to this point. and it'll be their first game away from home. But Iowa State's offense hasn't exactly been a force of nature this year either. We'll get more into that later. But so yeah, I'll buy the offense is the key, especially in terms of having to limit penalties. The holding penalties, by my count, 7 red zone holding penalties, including multiple holding penalties in the red zone in all 3 games this season. I think, Blair, you had another stat that said like they had 10 offensive penalties in the red zone this year. That's not going to work in Ames. So there's that. I'm also interested to see if Kedrick Reesano is going to be available for this game. As good as Ismail Mahdi was against Kansas State and as good as Quincy Craig is, I like having a bigger NFL size back in this kind of game. And then, of course, there's that Noah Fafita guy. He's got to limit mistakes, which he's excelled at this season. He still needs to improve his accuracy a little, make some slightly faster decisions at times. But when you consider that Arizona's thrown 1 interception this season, and that was by a wide receiver, that's a good sign. So you limit mistakes on offense, limit the turnovers and penalties. I don't think you have to hit a home run. I know it's the wrong sport, but you know what I'm saying. On offense, every single possession. But make sure Iowa State begins each drive on its side of the field, and I think Arizona has a chance.
And I think that's both of you. Great observations there. As far as I'm concerned, the defense is, I love the effort level. I've said this on just about every show. And I don't think Iowa State is that great offensively. I still can't get past this Iowa State ASU Big 12 championship game. I know it's a different team. I know Iowa State had 2 receivers that are now in the NFL. I just don't see this offense as better than what Iowa State had last year, and I didn't think their offense was any great shakes there. Rocco Becht is a fine quarterback, but I don't see Iowa State scoring 30-plus on Arizona unless turnovers and short fields, as you said, Shane, play a factor. And therefore, the under 48.5 is something that I will look at this week based on the stats that Blair gave. And just kind of, as long as Arizona doesn't turn the ball over, I have a hard time seeing this game going over, but I am all about the offense this week.
Yeah. And consider, Eric, that Arizona has essentially given up 1 touchdown all season. You know, the one after the muff punt, I'm not going to count against the defense, right? 1. And that was on a crazy play. There might have been a holding penalty on.
So 3 holding penalties.
Yeah, but you consider that. I mean, the defense has done everything you could possibly have asked them to at this point.
All right, number 2, Blair, I'll start with you once again. There's no such thing as a good loss, but if Arizona keeps it close against a top 15 team on the road, are you buying or selling that notion?
Yeah, I kind of buy it. I think we're still the exciting thing for me as a fan of Arizona football is this team's a little bit better than last year's team. It's a little bit deeper, a little bit more complete. I think offense, defense, special teams, they're playing together. There's a good energy. So I just want to see this team kind of keep growing and developing. I don't want to make comparisons to a 10-win 2023 season, but I really liked where Jed had the program 2022 transitioning into 2023. It seemed like even when we had some rough setbacks like the USC, triple overtime game or whatever it was in 2023, you could see the program and the team just kind of growing and developing. And that's what I'm curious about. I mean, this is the team's in a better place. They play better football. There's a lot to clean up and a lot of room for improvement, but we want to see that. And it may not all come together at once. It'd be great if it does. It might come in pieces. So I'm just curious to see what we get to see out of this group on Saturday in Ames. The biggest question I have is there's some real unknowns for this team. This will be the first road trip, right? I mean, so that can be a different animal for even really good teams can struggle on the road or perform differently on the road. So how does this group handle going on the road to a place it's not real familiar with against a quality opponent that plays really well at home? And then, like we talked about the offense too, that part of the challenge that comes with the offense now is taking that, into a hostile environment where crowd noise is going to be a part of it. So, our snap counts, our cadences, our communication, all of that's been really good at home. That's been one of the things I've really liked about our offense is procedurally, all the mechanical stuff has been really good. We've been lined up. We've been in the right places. We haven't been running players on and off the field, scrambling around or looking at the sideline confused. So what does all that look like, in our first road game against a good team? So, obviously want to win the game. I think it's a pretty good matchup, potentially for Arizona. So you'd like to, see this team keep developing and keep growing and just go win this thing. But there'll be a lot we learn from this team, whether it's a win or whether it's a loss. So, from that, as long as they don't just go lay an egg and look completely different than they have the first 3 games and all of a sudden we're questioning effort and hustle and toughness, which I'd be really surprised if we are. But like if that showed up, it would be a bad loss. If it's a hard-fought loss with more mistakes for us to learn from and improve on, then I'll still feel good about watching the growth and development of this team.
Another great answer there. Shane, I'm going to flip it to you. How do you define a good loss for Arizona on Saturday?
Well, if there is such a thing, I do think it's fair to raise your expectations for Arizona for the rest of the season if they play Iowa State competitively, win or lose. Yeah, in Iowa State, you kind of alluded to this, Eric, but they're interesting because they're 4-0, but they've kind of been a little bit for as much as you can for a top 15 team. They haven't exactly looked dominant most of the season. The K-State game was a mess that they happened to come out on the winning side of, which I don't hold against them. It was week 1 and, another continent. But that happened. The Iowa game was a defensive duel that they squeaked out again. And they didn't exactly turn a lot of heads at another ASU, Arkansas State, which just lost to Kennesaw State last weekend. So I feel like going into this game, Iowa State's, they're the better team. They're at home. And like Arizona, they're coming off a bye, so there's no advantage there. But there's nothing in particular, and I will probably eat these words, but there's nothing that I really fear about Iowa State at the moment, other than the fact that it is a road game. Iowa State they're fourth to last in the Big 12 in total offense. They're 8th in total defense. Rocco Becht has been accurate, only thrown the 1 pick, but his numbers don't jump off the page. Same for the running game. The big edge I think that Iowa State has going in is they commit the fewest penalties in the Big 12. They average 3 penalties per game and average about 27 penalty yards. Arizona is 3rd to last in that category in the Big 12. So part of me thinks I'm crazy for thinking Arizona could win this game, but you look at the numbers, you watch both teams in action, the eye test like you like to talk about, even though I hate that term. Maybe it's not that crazy to think, but Ames is still a tough place to play. And if Arizona plays Iowa State competitively, win or lose, I think I'd feel pretty good about it.
Well, look at this, and I don't mean to come off with a loser mentality here, but at the start of the year, if I had said to you guys, hey, Arizona's going to make a bowl game, you would have said, hey, that's a good season. Now, this is the toughest game on Arizona's schedule. I think we can all, who knows what ASU looks like at the end of the year, but right now, this is the most difficult road game on Arizona's schedule. Would you agree with that, Shane?
I don't know. I think if ASU and Iowa State had a Big 12 rematch in a neutral site again, I don't know. I might lean ASU.
Okay, so it's one of the two most difficult games. Listen, I just want to see Arizona keep it close into the fourth quarter and give themselves a chance to win. And if they fall short at that point, meeting those guidelines, then it's a fairly good loss. Obviously, we may be frustrated that they didn't do this or do that. But be in the game, it'd be a 1-possession game going into the fourth quarter. That's all you can ask for in an environment like this.
And here's the other thing, though, is there are good close losses and bad close losses. For example, if Arizona, say they're down 10, they score a late touchdown, and the non-side kick doesn't work out, we're thinking, okay, it's good. It was good effort. If they blow it late or they miss a potential game-winning field goal, that doesn't feel nearly as good. You're not going to feel, you say, okay,
no, I get it. I get it.
So I'm just saying there's different ways we could feel about a close loss at the end of the day.
Now we'll see how we all pick them at the end of the show. I have my pick. I have no idea what I have an idea what Shane's going to do. I have no idea what Blair's going to do. So we'll find out at the end of the show. For number 3 here, we have a guy on this show every week who wrote 2 books about the Arizona State rivalry. And this is a question that he submitted, and I think it's a good one. Shane, I'm going to give it to you here. If you could only have one, would you rather the Territorial Cup game be played on a Friday or be played during daytime hours?
Yeah, this is Would You Rather presented by Ice Shaker.
Yeah, yes, of course. Go ahead.
And so, because I was thinking about it, and I thought it's kind of a tough one, so I thought it'd be a fun question for us to chat about. I think keeping the game during the day is more important to me at this point than having it played on a Friday.
Wow.
We wait all year in Arizona for the type of weather that we actually get to enjoy around Thanksgiving. I love the weather that time of year. It's why we tolerate the summers. It's why we live here. So I'm team daytime. I'm probably less passionate about the Friday element than I used to be. I kind of just maybe having a day in between Thanksgiving and the game I'm actually kind of okay with. So I think ideally Friday during the day, but if I had to pick one, I kind of rather have the daytime.
Okay. Blair, what do you say?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I'm sort of exactly with what Shane said. I mean, I've always liked the Friday after Thanksgiving, but I also too just the daylight when we get that sunshine. And then the shadows, whether it's the Arizona Stadium press box taking over the field or Sun Devil Stadium, you start to get those shadows too. And late afternoon, it's just a great setting. I think in November, that November sunlight, whether it's in Tucson or Phoenix, I love that. When you get the wind, it's just awesome walking out of a stadium as it's getting dark outside, and you still got the whole evening to go have dinner or drinks or be with friends or family, whatever you're going to do. So I really like the daytime aspect, whether it's the Friday or the Saturday. One thing I will say, Shane, I believe one of your favorite U of A ASU games is the 2008 one that got Arizona over the hump and into the Vegas Bowl, and that was a night game in Tucson.
Yes, it was.
So I just wonder your thoughts on that, if the outcome also plays a little bit into the spectacle of it all.
No, it's a good point. My favorite one did take place at night. You're right. I do. The year after that, in 2009, Arizona was one of the uglier games, but it was a day game. It was in Tempe, and I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere. I don't have it recorded. I haven't seen it in a long time. But if you go back and watch Alex and Deas's game-winning kick, we don't have to talk about what happened next year. If you watch the game-winning kick, you'll see me raising my arms in the end zone right next to my ASU buddy with his hands on his hips. So, but that was a day game. 2014, also a great game, was a day game. But no, that's a good point. So it's kind of been hit and miss as far as how Arizona and ASU have done in day versus night games. That kind of be fun to dive into a little bit more. But you're right, the 08 game is my favorite of all time, and that did take place in the evening.
Two of my favorite Arizona ASU games, and I've been to every one except for 2020 since 2001. So every Arizona ASU game except for that debacle when they wouldn't let us in the stadium in 2020, and thank God they didn't. Blair, you were there, I assume. Were you there though? No, you were not there. Okay, good. So you missed that one. So two of my favorite games were 2004, which is during the day, and 2014, which was also during the day. Yep. One of my least favorite Arizona State games was 2024, which was also during the day. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care when the game is played, as long as Arizona keeps it close and wins the game. That's what matters. I mean, look at 2023. That was a great game, and that was also probably favorite Arizona State games, and that was played during the day as well. So I don't care when it's played as long as Arizona plays well. Non-issue.
It just seems a little backwards because the OK State game a week from Saturday is going to be at noon, which I think is great, but you would think it'd be the other way around. A lot of times U of A doesn't get any day games until like early November, so it's funny that you have one this early that's during the day, and then ASU games.
I'm gonna give a bonus topic here, just kind of about a would you rather type thing, and this is not on the itinerary, so you guys don't know what I'm gonna throw here. Arizona, Blair, I'll start with you on this one. Arizona has offered. Now I didn't renew my season tickets, but they offered discounted tickets, 50% off. I got for the Kansas State game, and then they offered $15 tickets in certain sections for the rest of the season. Is this, in your opinion, a great thing? And if so, how would you compensate the season ticket holders who are paying a lot more money in those same sections and getting nothing special out of it?
Yeah, that's always the debate. I haven't worked in the athletic department for a long time, and some years we had great season ticket numbers. Others it was really difficult to sell season tickets, and that's always the debate is do you discount the single game ticket kind of below what the season ticket holder rate is, because one of the incentives obviously of being a season ticket holder is that hopefully it's a little bit cheaper when you add them all together than if you bought them 6 or 7 single game tickets. I think what they're doing right now, they just need to do. We need to get people in the stadium. And I again, how they want to offset that, or if they wanted to credit season ticket holders, or kick that forward to next year, where taking a game off a season ticket. There's ways you could do that if that's really a concern. But we need to get people in the stadium. I go back to last October when Texas Tech came to town, and we were 3-1 at the time. We were just coming off the Utah win. It was our first ever Big 12 home game. Texas Tech was 2-0 in the Big 12. They were coming to town. It was a game we should have won. And I don't know what they announced, 45,000 people for that game, but there wasn't more than 38,000 people actually at the game. It came down to the fourth quarter. There's probably 20-some thousand people left in the stadium, and we needed a big stop. We needed a big turnover. We needed a big play, and we didn't have the environment. And we ended up losing that game late. And if this team continues to develop and improve, this season. I'm talking this season. We're looking at a 1-year season right now of seeing how many games this team can win. We still got to, some really good home games, some winnable home games. We got to get as many people in that stadium and make that place as loud as possible to play. Because I think this team deserves it. I mean, they're playing hard, and we just got to get some butts in the seats.
And it's well said. Shane, I think that the marketing team for Arizona has to credit, as Blair said, give them a credit forward to next year. Hey, here's $100 off your season tickets. Here's 10% off your season tickets. Here's 20% off. Something, because otherwise there's no point in purchasing season tickets. You just get single games on your own.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of times, or most seasons, UVA will give season ticket holders some sort of gift to go with it.
It's
I don't
like
think
a $5.
Yeah, but I don't think they. Yeah, but I don't think they did this year, and I think it's
interesting.
because of budget cuts. So I think that hurts too. So yeah, I it's kind of like if you signed up for like a phone plan or DirecTV or whatever, and then a couple months later, oh hey, new subscribers get 3 months free, and you're like, okay,
sure.
well, what do I get for signing? So you kind of take the go with it. But yeah, I agree. There has to be some sort of incentive. I mean, why are you buying season tickets if you're going to end up paying more or as much in the first place? So you have to be able to honor the people who are loyal and buy tickets to every game.
Moving on to the next one. So Arizona State and Kansas are going to play a game in London next year in the middle of September. I think it is a foolish idea. However, buy or sell, Blair, Arizona needs to hop on this bandwagon and get a non-US game scheduled ASAP.
I don't know if I could. I mean, I don't need to sell this one. I just give it away for free. Like I don't want any part of it. I mean, I love watching these games as a fan, especially when they're week 0 or week 1. But man, they're just a bear on the team operation, and the teams that give away a home game. It's hard to justify the ones that give away a home game. Now for Kansas, it makes a little bit of sense next year. I mean, they're still finishing their stadium renovation and things like that. So maybe it's an opportunity for them to give away a home game. But yeah, I want no part of it. I mean, I just, if Arizona ever had the opportunity to do like a week 0 and then have a bye week the next week, maybe I'm on board with one of those games. But middle of the season conference game, no thank you.
But a conference game, I agree. However, for a non-conference game, Shane, if Arizona Northern Illinois is going to put 25,000 people max in the stands at Arizona Stadium, and you could go to London and get 50,000, you would think from a financial standpoint that it makes sense, no?
Maybe from that perspective, yeah. But I mean, I agree with everything that Blair said. In fact, I like the give it away for free. Maybe I'll pay you to take this one. But yeah, as far as a conference game, I'll hard sell it. I'm starting to think there's a curse among teams that lose those overseas games. You see what happened to Kansas State this year. If nothing else, I'll echo what Blair said. I think it's difficult enough to play, especially your first game right out of the box with so many new faces each year, and playing it on another continent on top of that is asking a lot. I don't like the idea of giving away a home game. Yeah, I like if it's kind of. I mean, I don't know why London or Dublin would want Arizona versus Northern Illinois. No. I get your point though. But it's got to be some more meaning to it if it's going to be an overseas game. It's got to be a conference game. I mean, K-State and Iowa State weren't the biggest names, but they're decent draws, and they're both supposed to be Big 12 contenders this season. And maybe that's going to be the case with ASU and Kansas next year. So, but no, I wouldn't want it, especially if you're giving away a home game, even as paltry as Arizona's attendance has been. I don't think there's really any advantage from the team, even from the conference perspective there is. They're from the individual program perspective, I don't think there's much benefit.
I think we all agree on this one. Now, can we all agree on the next one? Arizona's Big 12 basketball schedule came out today on Tuesday when we're recording this, and the Wildcats schedule is brutal. Listen to this towards the end of the season.
Oh, you're going to take this away. Okay, go ahead. I was going to read it, but you go ahead.
Go ahead. Shane, go ahead. Right. Start with February 9th.
I don't know the dates, but I think there's a 7-game stretch.
Okay.
The second half of the season, and their schedule is backloaded in conference play like it was last year. At Kansas, at home against Texas Tech, home against BYU, at Houston, at Baylor, home against Kansas, and home against Iowa State, and then they finish at Colorado. But those 7 games, yeah. Now, here's where you and I are going to keep disagreeing. I love it. Because between that and the Big 12 tournament, I can't imagine any team is going to be more prepared for the level of competition in the NCAA tournament than Arizona is. I mean, throw aside the brutal non-conference schedule for a moment. I can't imagine any team in the country having a more difficult 7-game stretch, conference or non-conference, than that one. And I know you're scared of that kind of stuff, Eric, but look, say Arizona say they go 3-4 in that stretch. I'm here to say, so what? As long as they piece together enough quality wins throughout the season, won't hurt their seed line, at least not much, if all those teams are as good or close to as good as advertised. And it'll get them more prepared mentally and even physically, especially playing Houston physically, for the NCAA tournament, just like they were last year when they rallied to beat Oregon and they played a Duke, very good Duke team, extremely tough in the Sweet 16. I don't think that would have happened if they had played in a weak conference like the Pac-12 the year before that. So, but again, you remember last year, I think Arizona started 9-1 in the Big 12 and then finished, was it 15-5, 14-6?
Going to be something similar, probably.
Yeah, it'll probably be something similar, but that's okay. I think, again, if Arizona had the NCAA tournament schedule they had the year before last, where they had to play Clemson, I think that last year's team would have beaten Clemson in the Sweet 16 because they're used to playing that level of competition. So it's an absolute gauntlet, but I'm here for it.
Blair, here's the problem that I have with Arizona's scheduling, and I'm not going to go into my normal thing about that non-conference is too tough, but Arizona losing 10 games, which on this schedule based on, the non-conference, which is really difficult. I mean, the Wildcats probably have the hardest schedule in the nation or right up there. They lose 10 games. What's the highest possible seed you're going to get? A 4 again? A 5? Maybe, that's the problem that I have. So I'm kind of on the fence. Now that Tommy Lloyd sees this in the order of games, do you think he would go back and say, maybe I'm going to ease up with 1 or 2 of these non-conference games that I probably should not have scheduled?
Yeah, I mean, it is a brutal schedule when you factor non-conference and then that February into March schedule in conference play. But no, I don't think Tommy would. I mean, I think you look at this freshman class of players. I mean, Koa Pete and Braden Burries and Dwayne Aristote and some of the others. I mean, these guys are coming here to play in these big games. They're coming here to play in the Big 12. They want to play Houston. They want to play Iowa State. They want to play Kansas. They want to play those games on the road. They want to play them in McHale. Obviously, the TV contract for the Big 12 is coupled and led by football primarily right now. But Brett Yarmark has spoken publicly about maybe exploring the idea of separating and decoupling out the football and basketball contracts when they go back to the negotiating table in a couple years. And so I think this men's basketball product and putting these marquee games on the schedule is only going to be better long-term for all the programs in the Big 12 that are strong basketball programs. And Arizona's one of the top ones in that league. So I think Tommy's recruiting at a very high level right now. The guys we have on the roster, he's involved with some pretty high level prospects for next year's class. I don't think he's ready to slow down or put his foot on the gas pedal. He's full throttle. He wants these big games. He wants these big opportunities. And as we know, it really comes down to how do you play those first 2 weekends in March in the NCAA tournament. Can you get yourself to a Final Four? That's the next step for our program, is go 4-0. So it doesn't matter if you're a 8 seed going into the tournament or you went 17-1 in the old Pac-12 and you got a 1 seed in the West. You got to win those first 4 games of the NCAA tournament, get yourself a Final Four, and see what you can do. So I'm excited about it. I came up with a thing. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else, but I started saying during Big 12 play last year, you win a game on a Saturday night or you lose a game on a Saturday, hey, you're only as good as your next game in the Big 12 because, man, it's a quick turnaround and you're playing somebody else that's really good in 48 hours.
One thing and that's a great point. One thing that I thought was very interesting about the Big 12 conference schedule, that there is only one Tuesday game. So there's a lot of Saturday, Wednesday games. So a lot of those midweek, normally Wednesday is kind of like the day, what am I going to, well, your Wednesdays are going to be taken up a lot. Monday nights, the big Monday, obviously, but Wednesday nights for Arizona basketball, that's not something that we saw a lot last year. Yeah. So just kind of keep that in mind.
It's going to be tricky to figure out when we're going to record.
I was just thinking that too, yeah. Shane. I was like, are we going to record on Thursday before a Saturday game? Probably a lot of Monday night recording. I'm going to assume Monday night or Tuesday recording. You got to give ample time in before that.
We'd like to have our podcast relevant for at least 24 hours, but of course, with breaking news, you never know.
Well, yeah, just wait until the spring, and then all hell breaks loose. As always, we are very happy that Wildcat Country is brought to you by Harrah's Auction Casino. And did you know that Harrah's Auction Casino is your key to nationwide fun? Unlock perks at more than 50 destinations from coast to coast at your local home for Caesars Rewards. Free dining in Atlantic City, Vegas, or New Orleans? Yes. Free slot play in Maricopa? Absolutely. Free hotel stays from coast to coast? Oh yeah. Get rewarded for all the ways you play at the official sponsor of play, Harrah's Auction Casino. Caesars Rewards is the nation's #1 players card, and Harrah's Auction Casino is the only local casino that has it. Coming up next, we have a huge slate to break down here on Wildcat Country with special guest Blair Willis.
Discover more Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino.
Hi folks, here are your drinks.
Where having fun means racking up reward credits with the Caesars Rewards loyalty program that can be redeemed for food, free play, hotel stays, and more. Not only here in the city of Maricopa, but also at more than 50 Caesars properties coast to coast. From Harrah's Las Vegas to Caesars Palace in Atlantic City. What are you waiting for? Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino, the official sponsor of Play.
All right, Shane, I missed this in segment 1. I was so excited after the basketball discussion. You guys got me thrown off with such a difficult schedule. But it is time, a little belatedly, for Shane's standouts. What do you have for us this week?
Well, you know what, Eric? Let's start off by shouting out our national champion triathlon team for winning the first duel in the desert versus our rivals to the north, or the south in your case, Eric, I think being up there in Scottsdale. Congrats to Kelly Wetland and Margarita Vrablova for finishing first and second overall in the duel in the desert last weekend. They were the only competitors to finish with a time under 30 minutes. So the defending champions off to a good start. Men's golf team finished third overall in the Jackson T. Stevens Cup in Illinois last week. William Wistrand finished tied for seventh after shooting a 67 and 68 on the last two rounds. And finally, just want to mention our guy, Tedero McMillan, who got his first win in the NFL on Sunday when the Panthers blew out the Falcons. Bryce Young, he's horrible against everyone except the Falcons for whatever reason. But T-Mac leads all rookie wide receivers with 216 receiving yards this season, which puts him on pace for well over 1,000. So he still doesn't have a touchdown. But my bold prediction, Eric, is that he will get his first when the Panthers play the Patriots in New England this Sunday.
All right, I like that. Very good one there. I loved the Panthers on the money line last week, and I did not think they would win 30-0, but hey, gave that out at Sportsline, so hey, that was a win. All right, let me say I don't follow the NFL a whole lot. I was interested in T-Mac, so I wanted to see his catches and his stats. Did you see the team stats in that game? I mean, Carolina was outgained by over 100 yards and still won an NFL game 30-0. I mean, like that just seems impossible.
Yeah, I think Bijan Robinson probably got about as many yards as the Panthers did all together, and yet it was crazy. That's
a fireable offense for Raheem Morris in Atlanta. Let me just say that. T-Mac, I saw him in person at the Arizona Carolina game the week before. He made a catch that didn't count. Yeah. Now, we've all seen it at Arizona, but it was, I mean, if he had gotten his feet down, probably Odell Beckham-like, and it wasn't a touchdown, but it was phenomenal. That's how good this guy is. Yeah. All right, it's time for college picks. Shane's kicking my butt this year. You got 17 points. I have 15. This is how we score them. If you're new to the show, 1 point for a spread pick, 1 point for an upset special cover, 1 point if they win outright, and 2 points for Arizona's game. We are going to start with the upset special. I'm going to let you guys go first, because my upset special is actually the first game that we're going to talk about here. Shane, you are the leader in the clubhouse by 2. What are you picking as your upset special?
Well, I've learned as long as I don't pick the Friday games anymore, I should be okay. I'm going to go with Washington State as a 4.5-point underdog at Colorado State. Both teams have lost to Washington, but Colorado State also just lost at home to UTSA. They're in rough shape at the quarterback position. So give me the Cougs to win an ugly game on the road.
Blair, what do you have?
I actually considered that game, Shane, so good pick. I think Washington State will win that too. The game I'm taking will be Arkansas over Notre Dame. Not because I'm totally down on Notre Dame. I actually think they're pretty good. They've had a couple really close losses. Arkansas coming off surprising, they blew like an 18-point lead to Memphis last week. I think this might be the one last hurrah down there in Arkansas for Sam Pittman to kind of get that team fired up. They played Ole Miss really well a couple weeks ago, so Might be one more close game and one more close loss for Notre Dame on the road. So that's my pick, or away from home, I should say.
And I don't hate it. The one I'm going with is the first game we're going to talk about. Illinois. Last week, I liked them a lot against Indiana, and they lost 63-10.
Yeah, so did I.
There's something, and this is kind of a teaser to what we're going to talk about as we go along in this segment. When you see a line that's 6.5 points, to me, now Illinois was a 6-point underdog last week. To me, these sports books are begging you to bet the team that's favored by 6.5 because obviously they're going to win by a touchdown. When I have unofficially tracked that this season, 70% of the time or so, the underdog covers. Illinois not only will cover, but I think they will beat USC at home. USC has a massive home road split where at home they're great and they score a ton of points, and on the road they're not as good. Look for the Illini to bounce back at home against USC. Shane, what do you think about that game?
Yeah, I wasn't especially impressed with either team last week. I mean, especially Illinois, but USC only had a touchdown lead against Michigan State at home in the fourth quarter before they pulled away. And I'll tell you, I tend to do better when I just go with gut feelings versus actually looking at facts and data and all that boring stuff. So for that reason, I'm going to take USC to win, but just by a field goal. So I'm going to take Illinois to cover.
Blair, what do you think?
Yeah, Eric, you laid out some great points, and I don't think Illinois is as bad as they looked last week. USC, we still don't really know about. I will take USC to cover, though. I think it's a big red flag. You give up that many yards, that many points last week to Indiana, and this USC team has offensive weapons, as they usually do, but they're running the football better this year. That's something that Lincoln Riley's offenses the last 2 or 3 years really got away from. I think they're finding a little bit better balance this year, have some more playmakers in the ground game. So I think Illinois is going to play better. I don't think it's going to be the blowout it was against Indiana last week, but I'll still take USC to cover that.
All right, I think that's fair. Shane, this is a really intriguing game. The number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes are 8.5-point road favorites at Washington, which features a host of former Arizona players as starters. Do the Buckeyes win and cover in Seattle?
Yeah, really interesting one here. It is difficult to see what Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman are doing at Washington. I think the difference is going to be Ohio State's defense. Washington's a very tough place to play, but I like Ohio State to win a close game, but kind of like Illinois, USC, I think Washington finds a way to keep it within one possession, so I think Washington covers.
Blair?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game, too. I think it's going to be awesome to see Husky Stadium hosting Ohio State. I mean, that's just going to be a fantastic setting for college football. I really like what Jed's got on offense, and we're very familiar with a lot of those pieces. There are guys that played here or we were recruiting to play here. So I really like their offense. I think they will struggle a little bit. They're not going to be able to move the football quite as consistently against Ohio State. But to me, I still don't see it with Washington's defense. I'm not sure that Washington's defense is up to the task to win one of these games. The home crowd will keep them in it for a while, but I have Ohio State keeping. I think it's close. I think it's single digits. But if I'm picking that, I think it's around 8.5 is the line that you have. I'll take Ohio State to just slightly cover that late in the game.
I agree with you. I think Ohio State late in the game covers against Damon Williams, who should be at Arizona, Jonah Coleman, who should be at Arizona, and a host of other should be at Arizona players on defense. Okay, next one. This is a really intriguing game. Couple of ranked teams, couple of undefeateds. I believe LSU at Ole Miss, and the Rebels are -1.5. I like LSU to pull the upset. I am sold on LSU. They look to be this year's it team. Shane, do you agree with me?
You know what? I feel better about Ole Miss after seeing what they did to Tulane. I think that close win over Arkansas the week before was kind of a wake-up call. And certainly LSU's one touchdown win at Clemson doesn't look nearly as impressive now as it did then. I think this could be the year that Ole Miss jumps from just another very good SEC team to possibly conference title contender. I don't know they're quite there, but I think they're close. So I like them to win and cover the 1.5.
Blair?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game too, and maybe the best game of the day across the board. Really high stakes in the SEC. I'm impressed with Ole Miss. I like them too. A lot of what Shane just said, kind of on their backup quarterback who might be just taking that starting job, for his own, almost the way Noah Fafita did here a few years ago. He gives that offense an extra dimension. He's been making a lot of plays. But I'm going to lean with LSU going in and getting this victory. I think they're a little bit more of a complete team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. not the biggest Brian Kelly fan, but I think he might have a little bit of a group that's got a little bit of that toughness and grit necessary to string together some of these wins on the road in the SEC. So I'll take the Tigers.
Okay, we agree there. How about Oregon at Penn State? Battle of top 5 teams here. Penn State is giving 3.5 at home. I still haven't made a pick on who's going to win this game, but I am confident in who's going to cover. Shane, which way do you lean?
Yeah, this is more, again, gut over numbers. There's still a lot we don't know about Penn State, considering the level of competition at this point. And Oregon's had a bit more and has looked thoroughly impressive on both sides of the ball so far. Again, gut call. State College is going to be loud. I'm going to keep sticking with the home teams to cover. That's the theme for most of these picks. So give me Penn State. Okay,
Blair.
Yeah, that 3.5 line is pretty interesting. That's kind of a big line, I think, in this matchup. I think this is a field goal either way, and so the fact that it's a 3.5 is kind of tough to pick. I want to pick Penn State based on what I think they are and what I think they can be, but like Shane said, we're really not sure what they are quite yet. I still got to see, James Franklin win more of these games. I've been impressed 1 year into their Big Ten new home. Dan Lanning's done a good job with the Ducks. His team will not be intimidated. I think they'll have a good plan. I'm going to take Oregon to sneak out a close win and steal this one on the road against the spread.
It's funny because when Dante Moore was at UCLA a couple of years ago, I said, this guy stinks. What an overrated 5-star quarterback. And now, if they win, as Blair says, Dante Moore is the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Just going to point that out. I don't know who's going to win yet. I need to come up with my prediction, but I believe Oregon will cover the 3.5. I think if Penn State wins, it will be by a field goal, by 2 or 3 points at the most. So I'm going to take that 3.5 points and predict a very close, fun game. Now, the last ranked versus ranked before we get to the Big 12 slate, Alabama at Georgia. Georgia is -3. I like the Bulldogs at home. I'm pulling a Shane Dale here. I think there's a revenge angle for last year. That barn burner of a game. I think Georgia is better. I think Alabama is not as good. I think they were exposed on the road week 1 at Florida State, and I think they will lose by at least a touchdown here. Blair, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, another great game in the SEC. There's a lot of big ones this year, and this is one of them. I'm going to take Alabama by a field goal. I think this is a tight game, sort of like Penn State, Oregon, like we talked about in the Big Ten. These teams know each other very well. Alabama's going to have no issues getting their players focused and ready to play in this game. I think it's a 4-quarter game. I don't see either side really running away with this one, but I think, again, we were caught, Alabama was caught off guard a little bit by Florida State in that season opener. I think they've learned a lot. They've got themselves, playing at a much higher level, really in all phases right now. And this is kind of their, we're back coming out party now to get things started in the SEC. So I'll take Alabama close, but wouldn't be surprised, obviously, if they fall short.
Shane.
I'm with you on this one, Eric. I think it's actually a suspiciously low line from one perspective.
It is.
I'm wondering that it has to do more with the name Alabama than the quality of play.
Yeah.
Georgia's coming off a bye. Alabama looked undisciplined in its lone road game so far, so that's enough for me to say Georgia wins and covers. I think Georgia wins somewhere in the 7 to 10 point range.
All right, so for these next Big 12 games, we're just doing Big 12 versus Big 12 matchups. I want to go a little bit quicker with these. Just give me a pick, maybe one sentence if you want to throw it in there. Cincinnati at Kansas. Kansas -4.5. Shane, start with you.
Yeah, I think Kansas is just a little bit better. They got a great quarterback, 2 running backs averaging over 5 yards a carry. Cincinnati has one of the better defenses in the conference, but I think Kansas wins by a touchdown at home.
Blair, I think this line is very fishy. I would have put Kansas coming off a big win at home against West Virginia, at least a touchdown favorite. That's why I'm going with Cincinnati, and I think they will actually win the game outright. What do you say?
I'm right there with you, Eric. I had a little not so fast on this one. I think Cincinnati's a solid team, not a great team, but a solid team under the radar. I think they go in there. They won't be intimidated in that going to Kansas. I got Cincinnati squeaking it out by a field goal.
Kansas State off a bye week is now -6 at home against UCF. I think Kansas State's going to win the game, but 6 points, do you really trust this team to beat anyone by 6? I don't. Shane?
Yeah, the question is K-State headed toward a complete collapse, or can they still turn things around after their bye week? UCF has the emotional factor after losing one of its coaches. They've actually looked a bit better than expected so far as well. They just destroyed North Carolina at home. I'm going to take UCF to cover and maybe even win outright. But I like them to cover.
Okay. Blair?
I'll take Kansas State to cover. I think they're better than they've looked. It was Rod, we talked about scheduling early. Man, what a tough schedule they had going across the pond. 2 weeks later, having to play Army, then coming to Tucson on one day short of rest. I think Kansas State's now rested. They're healthier, and they'll start to put things together. I think they cover easily in this one.
Utah, 12.5-point favorite against West Virginia. The Utes really got exposed at home by Texas Tech's backup quarterback. Shane, I was texting our old buddy Joe Lopez from Texas Tech.
Tortillas and Takes podcast, yes.
Well, he moved on to another one, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So,
scratch what I just said.
But he wanted a score prediction. I picked Utah in that game, and I congratulated him after Texas Tech really beat him down. Utah going on the road at Blair's old buddy Rich Rod, laying 12.5. What do you think?
Asking me first?
Oh, yeah. You
okay. I think this is a big bounce back game for Utah. We saw last week West Virginia still has a lot of rebuilding to do under Rich Rodriguez. They won the backyard brawl, which is great, but I think that they still got a ways to go. I'm going to take Utah to win by at least a couple touchdowns.
Blowout City, Blair. I know you don't want to pick against your guy Rich Rod, but you got to take the Utah to bounce back, right?
I think I'm actually, this is a tough place to play, a tough road trip. Rich has the familiarity with Utah's program, given all of his years here in Tucson.
That's true.
I don't think West Virginia is very good. Like Shane mentioned, I don't know how they won the backyard brawl. I watched a lot of that. They're just not very good, but they did make enough plays down the stretch. I think there's a lot of toughness, though, in those West Virginia players. I think Rich will find a way to keep it close. Utah still wins. I'm not going upset. It wasn't my upset special or anything. But I think this one's closer than you two experts think.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Blair's taking the 12.5. So Oklahoma State finally got rid of Mike Gundy here. Now I don't even know who their new coach is. I didn't see. I don't even know if they announced one. What a mess! I'm going back and forth on this game. Baylor favored by 21 on the road in Stillwater. Oklahoma State plays at Arizona after this one. Blair, 21 points at home with a new head coach and your program in disarray. Which way you leaning?
I mean, I had Baylor covering this one. It's a big spread, but man, the circumstances are completely, thrown out the window now when the coach is fired midweek and everything. I think this is a tough one to call now. You don't know how Oklahoma State's going to come out. You see sometimes when a coach gets fired, a team responds very positively. Other times they just they're flat, they lay an egg, and it's just kind of as bad as it's been before. I guess if I have to make a pick, which obviously we do here, I'll take Baylor to cover. I think they get a bounce back from a tough loss to ASU.
Shane, this is a home team getting 21. I'm going to take Oklahoma State, and I don't really have a good reason for taking Oklahoma State. I think Baylor is not that good after their loss to ASU last week. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I don't know if Blair and I are going to agree on a single game, but the question is, will this be the Tim Kish effect? Like in 2011 when Mike Stoops was fired and Arizona responded under interim coach Tim Kish by putting up 42 points on UCLA in the first half. And that was before the fake referee streaked down the field.
That's right, yeah.
I think Baylor wins. I can't give them 21 points on the road, so I'm going to take Oklahoma State to cover.
All right, last one before we get to the two big ones here that are relevant to this program. BYU is a 6.5-point favorite at Colorado. I gave you my little unofficial stat about 6.5-point favorites on the road. BYU, do they have the offense? Dion, can he keep it closer than 6.5? Blair, what do you say?
Yeah, intriguing matchup. I don't think Colorado's very good. They've had some issues at quarterback trying to get somebody to run that offense. Not sure we know a ton about BYU. I think the defense is looking pretty good. We're not trying to figure out the offense. I think this will be a close game, probably lower scoring than we might think with the Colorado game. I'll take BYU by a field goal.
You know what? I agree with you completely. I think BYU by a field goal is what I'm rolling with. What do you say, Shane?
My notes say BYU by a field goal, so we're all going to agree on one. I think BYU is another team that's done all that's been expected of them so far, but it just hasn't been much because the level of competition hasn't been very high. Colorado's offense, they finally started clicking in their win again over Wyoming. Salter looked pretty good. I think it's a close game, mainly just because it happens to be in Boulder, but I think BYU wins a close one.
I don't think Colorado's very good. That 6.5-point trend, I'm going to play it this week. We'll see if it's a thing. How about TCU at ASU on Friday night? The Horned Frogs look pretty good, and they're getting 2.5 against an ASU team that was shaky but pulled off a last-second win at Baylor. Shane, you are the ASU apologist
Oh, stop
on
it.
this panel. Are you taking the Sun Devils to cover 2.5?
I am not the ASU apologist. On the other hand, uh, other than one bad half, I think ASU's looked pretty good this season. Their defense, they held Baylor, one of the best offenses in the Big 12, to 357 yards. They forced 3 turnovers. It did take a +3 turnover margin to squeak the game out. So make of that what you will. TCU is going to be another very difficult test. I just think ASU is the better team slightly. TCU's last in the Big 12 in passing defense, which could mean another big game for Jordan Tyson. So I'm going to take ASU to win by 7 to 10 points.
Okay, the ASU apologist.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Shane.
Sorry.
Blair, I'm picking TCU on the money line. I think TCU is legit. I think Josh Hoover, their quarterback, is for real. Their receiving core is good. I think ASU is overrated. And I think TCU goes in there and sneaks out a win on Friday night. And I'm not just talking with my heart, that's my head. Do you agree with me or Shane?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards you, Eric. TCU was a team I thought was going to be a little bit better than they were prognosticated coming in. Then they obviously burst onto the scene with that performance against Belichick in North Carolina. I think they got a really good offense, a really good quarterback. ASU is going to, try to make life difficult on them. I think they'll have a good atmosphere up there at Sun Devil Stadium on a Friday night, so it's going to be fun to watch. I think there's too much playmaking on TCU's offense, and ASU has been susceptible this year to giving up some big plays defensively. So if ASU cleans that up and doesn't allow the big plays, I think they'll be right there in it. Might rely on a turnover or two like they got in the Baylor game and be able to win it at home. But I'm going to just take TCU, too much explosiveness in this one. I'll take TCU to have the upset and win by about a touchdown.
And finally, on to Ames, Iowa, the game you guys have been waiting for or listening. Thank you for getting through the all these picks that we made here in this exciting week 5 of the college football season. I'm actually going to go first on this one. So the 6.5-point trend. I wanted to pick Iowa State by 10, but the whole thing about 6.5 points, can't do it. I think Iowa State will win, but I think Arizona keeps it close. And if there's such a thing as a good loss, as we talked about earlier in the show, Arizona will have it. Iowa State 24, Arizona 20. Take the under. Blair, you're up next.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I'm really looking forward to this game because I think we're going to learn a lot about the Wildcats. And we've kind of been saying that week after week, but I kind of feel like we're building. And I don't know if we're building to some like 8, 9, 10 win team or what we're building towards, but we're going to, start to learn the identity, of this team. And kind of one of the last pieces of that is taking this thing on the road, against a bona fide opponent like Iowa State, a team with a lot of experience. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing how this team looks. Has it made some adjustments offensively? Is it healthier offensively? Can we get guys like Chris Hudson back? Can we get Kedrick Reesino back? Kind of put this whole thing together offensively. That's one thing I'm looking forward to. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, how do we handle the situation? How do we handle the environment, the crowd noise, the cadence at the line of scrimmage, the communication? Really curious about that. And then, one of the adages we hear a lot in sports and you hear it in football is that defense travels. Well, we're going to find out how good this defense is. Can it go into Ames, against a team that's not necessarily a high-powered offense or an explosive offense, but it's an offense that knows how it wants to win. It knows how it wants to operate. Can Arizona get Iowa State behind the chains? Can it get them on their heels? And can it get them maybe playing from behind? If all of that happens, I think Arizona can win. All told, I think this is a relatively low-scoring game. I'm going to take the Wildcats on the road in a narrow upset, 24-17.
Wow. I am surprised. I actually thought all of us would pick Iowa State here. I don't think Iowa State's that good, so I don't hate that pick, Blair. Now, Shane, Blair and you have not agreed on many things in this segment. Will you agree on this pick and leave me on an island?
Well, let's see. I want to start by saying Noah Fafita and Rocco Beck, they're not the same kind of quarterback, but they're very similar in that they very rarely shoot themselves in the foot. Beck's thrown 1 interception. He's only been sacked 6 times in 4 games. So turnovers, tackles for losses, they're likely to be even more precious than usual in this kind of game. 4 reasons why I'm still leaning Iowa State to win. The game is in Ames. Iowa State commits far fewer penalties. They're one of the best in the Big 12 on third down, and they're a bit better in the red zone. They've scored a touchdown on 11 of their 19 trips. Arizona's 9 of 17. Not a huge difference, but it's notable. And again, the penalties, the holding penalties near the end zone are absolutely killer. And until I see a game in which that's not an issue for Arizona, I'm not going to pick them against this caliber of opponent. And I just don't see that starting on the road. So I think, and I even expect at this point, I expect Arizona to play a competitive game. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation at this point. But I don't know if Arizona is ready to win this kind of game just yet. So I'm going to go Iowa, a similar pick to you, Eric, but I have Iowa State covering. Iowa State 27, Arizona 20.
All right, fair enough. A half-point cover. That's fair. Guys, great show, great discussion. Blair, always great to have you on the show. We really appreciate it. And we will talk, obviously, in the next month or two as basketball season gets underway. You're a wealth of information about anything when it comes to Arizona, obviously from your days as the SID, long-time SID for the football team. But the amount of stats and stuff you have is awesome. So always appreciate it. So for Blair Willis and Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.